What's up, everyone? Welcome to the very second episode of What About Biz, the show where we break down the business stories you actually care about without putting you to sleep or making you get an MBA. Give this video a thumbs up, hit that red subscribe button, and let's jump into it. All right, let's talk about Trump and the Fed, because apparently the former president is beefing, again, with Jerome Powell, aka the man in charge of U.S. interest rates and, by extension, how painful your mortgage feels. This week, Trump called Powell a major loser on social media for not lowering interest rates right now, claiming an economic slowing is coming unless Powell cuts rates preemptively. Which, okay, bold economic strategy, bully the central bank until it gives you what you want. This isn't new. Trump's had Powell in his digital crosshairs since his first term, but now things feel escalated. He said Powell's termination cannot come fast enough, which is the political equivalent of, I want this guy out and I want him out yesterday. But here's the thing. Can the president actually fire the Fed chair? Short answer. Maybe. But probably not. The Federal Reserve is supposed to be independent. Emphasis on supposed to be. Powell can only be removed for cause, which usually means misconduct, not, I don't like your vibe. No president has ever successfully fired a Fed chair before. Zero legal precedent. That's why the markets freaked out. The S&P 500 dropped 2.4%, Dow down 2.5%, NASDAQ fell 2.6%, because threatening central bank independence is like lighting a match in a room full of fireworks. And even if Trump could fire Powell as chair, Powell would still stay on as a governor until his term ends in 2028. So unless Trump is planning to yeet him off the board and rewrite central banking norms, this is more bark than bite. Still, the message to markets is loud and clear. Trump 2.0 might mean a very different Fed. Okay, story time. You ever scroll TikTok and suddenly you're deep in a rabbit hole of handbag drama? No? Just me? Well, it turns out the U.S.-China trade war has found a new battlefield, TikTok, and Europe's luxury fashion houses are caught right in the middle. Here's the tea. TikTokers, allegedly based in China, are claiming they manufacture the bags sold by Hermes, Louis Vuitton, Prada, you name it. They're posting under the viral hashtag #Chinese manufacturer, and one of the ringleaders, a guy who goes by Wang Seng, says Chinese factories make 80% of the world's luxury bags. The claim, these brands just slap a logo on and repackage the bags in Europe to legally say they're made in France or made in Italy. Seng says he's part of an OEM, that's an original equipment manufacturer, meaning they make the goods that brands later resell under their own name. And sure, the videos are slick. They show off workshops, break down costs, even poke fun at how little it allegedly takes to make a bag that sells for $20,000. But are they true? Probably not. Investigative journalist Noémie Leclerc says most of these bags are likely counterfeits, high-quality ones, but fakes nonetheless. She believes the trend is less about fashion and more about politics. See, this isn't just shade, it's a soft power play. China, frustrated by U.S. tariffs, might be turning a blind eye or even encouraging these kinds of counterfeit narratives. It's a form of economic retaliation, where IP, intellectual property, becomes a tool of trade warfare. Also, keep in mind, brands like Hermes are extremely protective of their sourcing and craftsmanship. They say nothing is made in China. Others, like Prada, might use Chinese manufacturers for some steps, but not the final ones that determine the made in label. So next time someone flexes their Birkin bag on TikTok, maybe ask which factory it came from. Let's talk gold. And no, not the kind you keep in a tiny safe under your bed. I'm talking about Barrick Gold, the Canadian mining giant, making two big moves this week. First, Barrick is selling its 50% stake in the Donlin Gold Project in Alaska. Who's buying? Billionaire John Paulson and Nova Gold Resources, to the tune of $1.1 billion in cash. And get this, there's even a side deal. Nova Gold can buy back the outstanding debt tied to the project for an extra $90 to $100 million. Barrick says this is all part of their strategy to double down on Tier 1 mines, long-life, high-margin operations they can control directly. Translation? They're trimming the fat, so to speak. And the plot thickens. According to Bloomberg, Barrick is now looking to sell its last remaining mine in Canada. Why? Simple. Gold is booming, prices are near record highs, and Barrick wants to cash out while investors are thirsty for North American assets. Smart business? Maybe. But for a company once synonymous with Canadian gold mining, walking away from its home turf feels symbolic. The mining world is shifting, and Barrick is reshuffling its global footprint while the market's hot. And finally, we got to talk about solar drama. And this one is spicy. The U.S. just dropped tariffs as high as 3,521% on solar panels from 4 Southeast Asian countries: Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, and Malaysia. Why? Because American solar manufacturers say Chinese companies are using those countries to sneak in cheap solar products and dodge tariffs. Companies like Jinko and Trina are getting slammed. Cambodia, which didn't even cooperate with the U.S. investigation, got hit the hardest. To be clear, this is part of a much larger trade fight with China that's spilling over into clean energy. Some in the industry say this is necessary to protect American manufacturers. Others argue it's going to raise costs and slow down the U.S. solar boom, especially after the Inflation Reduction Act gave big subsidies for building green tech here. And here's the kicker. These 4 countries made up 3/4 of all solar imports into the U.S. last year. So this is a big deal. Final approval from the International Trade Commission is due in June. But if this sticks, expect reshuffling, price hikes, and maybe even more sourcing from countries like Indonesia and Laos. All right, that's a wrap on today's biz breakdown. From TikTok handbag drama to solar tariffs that would make your accountant faint, the economy does not know how to chill. If you learned something new or had a wait a seriously contour moment, go ahead and hit that like button, smash subscribe, and drop a comment. Which story had you doing a double take? Catch you in the next one. Stay smart, stay curious, and keep asking, what about biz?